Hello everybody, Mikey here, and today I want to talk about my favourite video game trilogies of all time. During this time of year, new game releases are few and far between, so I found myself looking towards old games to fill my time. However, the madman inside me will often spot one game and think, oh, that's part of a trilogy, let's do the whole thing. Although the chances of me actually going through said entire trilogy are pretty slim, it did lead me to thinking about all of the gaming trilogies that float my boat. Of course, this meant I did a top 10 in my head, and now I'm sharing it with all you gorgeous people. So, here it is.
What do you want from me?
I see great things in our future, kid. Great things.
Number 10, Mass Effect 1, 2 and 3. Now, before anybody kicks off that Mass Effect isn't higher on the list, there's a good reason for it. I've only actually played half of 1 and a little bit of 3. However, I know the impact and quality of this trilogy, so I just had to include it. Plus, let's be honest, if I left it off, I'd have thousands of crazy Mass Effect fans at my door with pitchforks, and I don't want that. I do fully intend to play the upcoming Legendary Edition, so watch this space. Space. Get it? Moving swiftly on. Onto a set of games I've played all the way through now, and at number 9 is Devil May Cry 1, 2 and 3. I'm a massive fan of all 5 Devil May Cry games, and the original 3 sit nicely together as a cool PS2 trilogy, which are now available on the Switch as well. I highly recommend picking up this action-packed hack and slash trilogy for the Switch, as I had a hell of a time jumping back into the underworld with everybody's favourite demon slaying Silver Fox, and so will you. Admittedly, these games would have probably made it all the way up into the top 5 of this list if Devil May Cry 2 wasn't, well, a bit shite. Number 8, it's Halo 1, 2 and 3. Nobody can deny the impact that the Halo trilogy had on gaming. Although the modern day Forerunner trilogy is hardly setting the world on fire, the original Reclaimer saga was no doubt a massive system seller for the Xbox and deservedly holds its place as one of the best video game trilogies of all time. It's a little further down for me, given I only ever had an interest in the campaigns and would rarely play online, but the story was good enough to keep it in my top 10 nonetheless. On to number 7, it's GTA 3, Vice City and San Andreas. Okay, I know this one isn't really a proper trilogy in terms of a continuous story. I mean, how outside of a few exceptions, such as Laszlo Jones, we don't even get the same characters back. Having said that, there's no denying that these 3 PS2 titles go hand in hand and defines a generation of Grand Theft Auto games, as they were the first ones to go full 3D open world and change the industry forever. One of these 3 are rarely spoken about without the other 2 being brought up. GTA is one of, if not the most successful video game franchise in the world, and GTA 3, Vice City and San Andreas is a major reason why. Number 6, it's God of War 1, 2 and 3. Although Kratos is all grown up now and living his best life in a new Norse mythology setting, we can't forget his Greek roots and where he came from. Admittedly, the mindless violence of these first 3 games in the series may not have aged gracefully, but that doesn't take away from how stupidly fun they were. Even better, they all follow on from one another almost instantaneously, so you can't really go back and play one without playing the entire trilogy for the story to make sense. If that doesn't make for a good trilogy, then I don't know what does. Into the top half of this list now, and at number 5, it's Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3. Still the gold standard of stealth games, the first 3 Metal Gear Solid titles each had a gigantic impact on the industry, as well as working as a cool little trilogy, even if the timeline is a bit all over the place. Basically, just play the third one first. The first game blew our collective minds, with Psycho Mantis smashing the fourth wall to read our damn memory cards, followed by Metal Gear Solid 2 treating our eyeballs to what I believe to be the best looking game of all time up to that point, before Metal Gear Solid 3 had us eating snakes to stay alive. Also, it was just a badass culmination of everything Hideo Kojima and Konami had learnt in their previous outings, so that was great too. When every game in a trilogy is a contender for the Game of the Year, then you can't really deny it a place in the top 5 of this list. And I'm also sure that the story was pretty great in this trilogy, though I'll admit right now, I still have no idea what goes on in those games. Number 4 is the Assassin's Creed Ezio trilogy. I often wonder if this trilogy was ever meant to be intentional, or whether the huge success of Ezio Auditore as the main protagonist of Assassin's Creed 2 led Ubisoft to tell his entire story in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and Assassin's Creed Revelations, before finally moving on to Assassin's Creed 3. Either way, I'm glad they did, because this run of games was nothing short of outstanding and the undeniable highlight of Creed games on the PS3 and Xbox 360. The fact that this trilogy is currently sold as a pack and is still played by millions to this day says a lot about how great this Ezio trilogy was, and arguably one of the best stories told in Assassin's Creed history.
And mentor, Ezio Auditore de la la la.
On to the top 3 now, and in at number 3 is Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. Even though Nathan Drake's story is told over 4 games rather than 3, there's still a feeling that the first 3 stand separate to the 4th due to them being some of the biggest exclusives to grace the PS3. And Uncharted 4 just feels like a slightly more serious story than the others. But that's what's special about this trilogy. It's easy and fun. Going back to the reason why I started this list in the first place, and it was to find something to play during a quiet period. Now, unless this period of time is about 6 months, most of these trilogies won't actually be doable for the average Joe. However, Uncharted games are notably fast-paced and relatively short, so if you're not fussed about hunting for all the treasures and going for the platinum, then you could probably beat this trilogy in about 20 hours, which would be appealing for a lot of people, including myself. In at number 2, it's Bioshock 1, 2, and Infinite. Without spoiling the top spot, I want to say that I really struggled to separate these two trilogies into what was going to be first and what was going to be second. That's down to the Bioshock trilogy being absolutely outstanding from beginning to end. Sure, Bioshock 2 might not feel quite as iconic as the original, but that was still a really fun experience. Infinite was a brave reinvention that geniusly manages to tie into the first two, and the first game is still my favourite first-person shooter of all time. In a world where most first-person shooter stories are only there to serve the online experience, Bioshock goes the other way and puts story and atmosphere before anything else. Sure, the gameplay may not have held up as well as you might think over the years, but exploring the dark and creepy underwater city of Rapture and the bright and colourful Columbia, along with their combined story full of twists and turns, still makes these games an absolute must-play. Before we move on, if you want more Bioshock goodness, then make sure to check out Luke's article going up on our website tomorrow, where he gets hyped for the rumoured Bioshock 4 by asking, what's the best Bioshock game? Pretty much everyone here at Respawning got involved with this one, so trust me when I say you don't want to miss out. Taking the top spot at number 1, it's the Batman Arkham Trilogy. It was a close call, but the Arkham Trilogy just had to take the number 1 spot. When I first started thinking about all this, I couldn't get the Arkham games out of my head, as they have everything I want from a trilogy. Each game improves that brilliant, it actually feels like Batman style of gameplay, and the story works perfectly as a trilogy while still being fantastic stories in their own right. Each of these 3 games have something unique about them that makes them stand out from the others. Asylum has the best atmosphere of the trilogy, as being stuck on a prison island full of insane supervillains is the closest the series gets to being a full horror, and I love a bit of horror with my Batman stories. While Arkham City gives the player more freedom and a real taste of Gotham City, making it arguably the most traditional feeling Batman game out of the trilogy. Arkham Knight then does a great job at making you feel like a truly unstoppable Dark Knight by giving us access to the Batmobile whenever we want, making it the most chaotic and action-packed of the trilogy. I'd really regret it if I didn't mention the Joker in all of this as well. Maybe the reason that the Arkham Trilogy just about beats Bioshock for me is that it has my favourite story arc for a villain in any game I've ever played. Mark Hamill has of course had more than his fair share of legendary performances of this character, but his 3 appearances in Arkham is right up there as one of my favourites, and helps the Batman Arkham Trilogy become my favourite of all time. So there you have it, my top 10 video game trilogies. Did I mention your favourite, or is there something obvious I'm missing? Let me know your top 10 in the comments below, or feel free to hit us up on Twitter at Respawning UK, or on Facebook and Instagram, again just by searching Respawning UK. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe as well for more just like it. And like I've already touched on, we've got some great articles including Luke's Bioshock one going up on our website at respawning.co.uk, so make sure to check that out as well. Once again, I've been Mikey, thanks for watching, and I shall catch you next time.